This is it, people. This is what you've been waiting for. This is Everyday Celebrity Podcast. The podcast for everyday people with everyday problems, trying to find everyday solutions to accomplish everyday goals. Let's start the show. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Celebrity Podcast. Number one podcast in Oakland, the number one podcast in the Bay Area. And today we have a special guest joining me. She is a freedom fighter, I believe. Beautiful woman. She's kind of tall. She is a best-selling author, and she is an activist. And we're going to talk about her life, her first novel, yes?
Debut.
Tara Dorabji. I said that right?
You got it.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good.
Yeah? Well, Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. We got some beautiful light in studio. I like it.
Yeah, we met, well, this is our first time meeting face to face, but we have a crazy little weird story how we originally met, but
we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for another time.
That's a follow-up episode.
So are you originally from Oakland?
I don't live in Oakland, though a lot of people think I do. I'm born and raised in the Bay. My parents actually met at the I House at UC Berkeley International House. So that's a little part of my creation story. But yeah, I've been in the Bay Area my whole life.
Were they students? They
were international students, both of them.
Where's your parents from?
So my dad's from Bombay, Mumbai, India, and my mom's German-Italian, born in Germany.
Well, that's a crazy mix.
Right? A little global.
Is your dad like a scientist or something?
He's like an engineer. So he did like semiconductor manufacturing right at like the beginning of all of that. It's like having a renaissance right now.
How was growing up in that family dynamic with the Indian dad and the German mother?
It was interesting. I feel like they had a little bit of the post-racial utopia vibe. At least my mom did. That's like the German white side, right? And then I think my dad was just like assimilation. So I think for him, sort of the roots and culture came later. But my mom like tried to steward it for him. So it's sort of interesting. Like those dynamics have been really interesting, especially unpacking it over like from your creation through adulthood, right? And then like, how do you maybe raise your kids in a different way, or what do you follow?
Do you feel like they raised you correctly?
I love like what they did. And I think like as a parent, you realize there's not a correct, you just try and it's imperfect. And like sometimes there's things that you're like, wow, maybe that's an apology, or, I'm sorry I hurt you in that way, but like you try and there's no way to do it correct because it's a crazy world, that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
So, but I'm grateful.
Were they together your whole life?
No, they split up when I was like in elementary school. And I feel like that was really interesting because then they both started dating and they were open about it. And I was kind of into it. Like I was into it. I was into experiencing that. And then of course, as an adult, you look back on it and you're like, okay, that was super wild.
I mean, were they living together and dating other people?
No, it wasn't like that. They at least like separated, divorced, moved out. So that was clean,
But it wasn't hard on you because they got divorced. It was just like...
I feel like it opened my world up, and like my mom, I feel like in some ways she pushed back against things in different ways. So even like our political organizing, like I wasn't brought up in an activist household. So it was like in college when I really got my political understanding and organizing, and my mom started like working with the union at that time. And so that was really cool because we stepped into like our organizing in different spheres, her in the labor, me and like the more activists, and like we came into it together. So that I like that. I like to see her growth in that way.
What's your mother's like work history background?
She's a teacher. So she taught at San Jose State, at De Anza. And so it's cool. Like every once in a while, it's still like those circles come in where somebody is like, I met somebody who had your mom as a teacher and she like changed their life. And so I think that's really powerful. That legacy, like even after she's gone, right? Like that part still lives.
How were you in high school? Did you go to high school here?
Yeah, in the South Bay. I was like, I had a bad attitude. So like, I think
you were getting in fights and shit?
No, I just wasn't like, I was just like, I guess a little more like depressive in my mindset. And so it was like a little more of an Eeyore attitude, like, oh, woe is me. But I was really into poetry. Like that was one of my first sort of counterculture, like this is my connection. And so that was beautiful. And there was the Bridge of Poets. And so that was the movement. I think I was like 13 or 14 when I started going. So then, I mean, eventually, like I worked with Youth Speaks in the Bay. And so I remember somebody when that happened, somebody from high school being like, wow, that's like the perfect thing for you. So there was that part of me that was a writer back then, that was a poet. I think poetry has been my first language of like
what type
art.
of poetry do you write?
I mean,
like topic wise.
Not good, some would say. I mean, what I love about the poem is like it's the heart of an emotion. So, I'm working on a piece. I'm actually I haven't done a poem in a while. And I haven't been writing much poetry, but I'm writing a piece on salt mines.
Oh, okay. So you don't write about like love and heartbreak and all that shit.
Everything is about love and heartbreak. That's at the heart of every poem, every piece of art, every piece of work is love. But like the different ways you love. So like love in this poem is like more about love for humanity, love for your family, and that feeling of like, what is it when your family is being torn apart by ICE, by like the paramilitary forces, by these different ways, and then like the anger inside too, and the disruption in households, and like how can you live in a world like this and take it in fully and be sane?
Yeah.
Right? Like, can you? No. But like we want to function. So how do you function and like feel the grief? And like, what's your medicine right now? So like, that's it. Like, what's your medicine for your heart right now? I think that's what that poem's about. Is like, what's the heart medicine? Like healing. Yeah, what's the medicine for your heart?
Are you asking me?
Sure.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a tricky question, I think. We'll get back to that. Did you go to college after high school?
I did.
What school did you go to?
I went to UC Santa Cruz.
Okay. Studying what?
Environmental studies. So it's good. I enjoyed my time. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful space.
Did you stay interested in that subject all through college, or did you lose interest?
I enjoyed it because it was like relationship with the natural world. So I got to do some cool stuff too. Like they had a natural history field quarter. So I got to go and stay in all these amazing UC reserves across the state of California and study the natural history, which is like taking notes and observation and learning everything from geology to the plant life. So that was super cool. I mean, like, are you going to have a profession as a natural historian? No. But like, what a beautiful life experience, and like to connect to those places in nature and all the different ecology of the state and to have access to those spaces. And then also to think about it like the UC owns those spaces. Like I got to go out to Santa Cruz Island, which is in the Channel Islands. And so that was super cool. It's like that's a hard spot to get to.
Do you feel college is worth going to now?
I do, and I know that some people would totally disagree. And I think more than like, is it college or not? I think it's about what's the passion, where's your heart, and like what community are you going to build with it? And so what I liked about college, and like granted this was like 2 decades ago, different type of world, and like it wasn't as expensive. So like debt is a big deal.
Yeah.
So like getting through without debt is really important. But I like the frameworks that I learned stayed with me. And then the friends that I got stayed with me. Like my first job I got out of college. I was like one of those, like I met my next mentor in a college class. And like that organization, like one of my good friends now, you know? So there's like legacy from those moments. So I think that's important. So like where can you get your mentorship, build your community, and like learn your frameworks and come through without debt?
So you think did college turn you into the woman you are now, or were you already that in high school?
When I asked my mom, like, how do you, like, where do you find my adult self? I asked her this in my late 30s, like, when you see me, when do you remember my adult self coming? Because when I look back at myself, there's like, it shifts, you know, like who I can remember being and who I connect to. And she was like, when you were 16. And that kind of blew my mind because my 16-year-old self, I don't necessarily strongly associate with my 40-year-old self. But for my mom, she was like, saw that continuum. So she saw that before in high school, she saw me come into my adulthood. But I think college gave me a lot of confidence. And I think people find it in different places. But for me, that's where I could step into like myself. So I think it helped. I mean, it was one of many things, you know, so many different things and people have created who I am now.
When did the whole activism come in the picture?
I think definitely in college was when I got active. And I was like all different things, like free Mumia, like no GMOs, like let's get go to The Hague for climate change. I was like sort of on all cylinders. And then I found out about the UC's involvement in nuclear weapons. And that disturbed me because I'm like, okay, this is an institution of higher learning. This is like one of the premier college systems in the world, responsible for the design and development of every nuclear weapon in the U.S. arsenal.
Oh, yeah?
And it's like the U.S. became a hegemon through use of a nuclear weapon.
Are you talking about like designing like Berkeley, designing the atomic bomb and all that shit?
Well, I mean, there's like plutonium was uncovered, discovered, created on that campus. So like UC Berkeley is deeply connected, but the Livermore lab and Los Alamos labs were run and managed by the University of California for decades. So basically they were all UC employees. That model's like changed a little bit, I think, for the liability. But at the time I went there, that was the model. So like when they finally put them up for a competitive bid, like we bid to to manage them with like then the New College of California. Like that was one thing that we explored. But it's that's a really tight relationship to have your nuclear weaponeers for a country being employees of the University of California.
Do you think it's fair for the United States to police other countries and tell them that they shouldn't have a nuclear weapon when we have them?
I mean, it's kind of like telling your kids, I'm going to do it because I'm the adult. Like that force lasts for a minute, but you don't get credibility on it, right? So it's like it's not like, it's rule of force. It's like, but it makes sense for an empire that, how did we come to be the controller? Through the use of nuclear bomb. Like we dropped that on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's like, and then we became the hegemon. Then we're like, now we dominate the world. And then you have the rise of Hollywood. So you have like that cultural narrative and all the different ways, right? And so now it's a moment where like U.S. hegemony, everyone's looking like, how stable is this empire, right? And so you see that force accelerating to try to maintain itself.
Do you think Iran wants a nuclear weapon to do us harm or just to so people don't fuck with them? Because when you think of when you think of like China and like North Korea, the U.S. always talks about North Korea, how bad it is and what's going on, but they never do anything to North Korea. Why? Because they have a nuclear weapon. China, we never do nothing to China. The government is always talking about how bad China is. We never do nothing to them because they have a nuclear weapon. Iran, how we just went over there and killed their leaders and all this other stuff. When they were saying, "Oh, they're so bad," and we went over there and did what we did. They don't have a nuclear weapon, but if they did, do you think we would have just went over there and killed their leader like that? No, I don't think so. So do you think Iran wants a nuclear weapon so people don't fuck with them, or because they want to do harm?
I mean, I think like those two things are interconnected. I don't think that you can not do harm and have nuclear weapons. So you're going to harm your population by creating them. And if you want to like leverage your control through like threat of annihilation and destruction, that's a form of harm. Does that get someone to like back off? Who's like a big bully? Maybe, yeah. Like, and I think with Iran, like we can't talk about Iran without talking about Israel, because Israel is who went in after Iran.
Yeah.
And Israel is another part of the narrative of the U.S. And like Israel was established at the end of World War II when the U.S. became the hegemon. So that was like an outpost of control and a narrative.
When you say hegemon, what is that?
Global controller.
Oh, okay. So
the U.S. controls not just like the military, but like economic force, but also like the ideological force. So you have like so that's why it's like Hollywood right? Like our culture is exported. Like, why is everybody like celebrating Halloween and Christmas and like all these holidays from us? Like, we export our culture as part of the whole control mechanism. But yeah, so that's when Israel came to be established as a state, and you had the Palestinians ripped off of their land. And now, I mean, there's the genocide in Gaza that we've all watched live stream that continues, and you have Israel pushing into Lebanon and like millions and millions and millions of displaced people, right? So there's a larger territorial thing. And like, that's why Iran's like, okay, US, why don't you close your bases in the Middle East? Like when we're talking about a ceasefire, like get out. So I do think like the nuclear part is part of the conversation, but it's like, it's a part of the conversation. If everybody to survive needs a nuclear weapon, we will all kill each other in that way. So that's one pathway, right? There's like that pathway of destruction. So like, what are the other methodologies and ways that we can start working together? And that's the force, right? That's controlling things at a geopolitical level.
What was your purpose when you were in college, when you found out when you started to get into activism about the UC's involvement? What was your were you in like a group, and what was your group's purpose of what were you guys trying to do?
I mean, that was like demilitarization of the education and understanding that the university then is used as a position to control through war, and you're like essentially grooming people to go into war industries. So how do you get contracts out with major military profiteers? So divestment from things like Bechtel, like we would go to the UC Regents, try to get divestment from the labs too. So that's like that was a very clear, actionable one. And sometimes you could ask them to weigh in on something specific, but it's more about the overall model. You have education in service of mass destruction. Like, why are we just, like you have universities tied with the militarization. But you see that even now under this current administration, when they're going after universities and the billions of dollars of subsidies the administration pours into the universities, and like, yes, we want money for our universities, and that's used as a way to have military control over the populations and assert that domination. So So there's that, like, and at the same time, universities, there are places where there is a lot of liberatory praxis and amazing education happening and those opportunities. It's just they're not funded. So I think that was like a lot of what we started to do as a student movement. But it was interesting. It was also education. Few people knew about the UC's role in nuclear weapons.
You guys didn't try to like, you guys didn't have no extremists in the group, like try to blow up the...
No, I always like, I mean, because that's the thing. When you're dealing with organizing around something like nuclear weapons, it's like...
Yeah, using a bomb would be contradictory, right?
Yeah, you have to really steep in nonviolent principles. And so that was like, and then I organized with a lot of elders that had like been doing it for decades. So they would just always come in like, anytime we do anything, here are our nonviolence guidelines. And so that taught me a lot about how to organize. Like, what do we hold? What do we bring into?
Yeah. So that was that was the most thing you were passionate about in college?
That's kind of where I landed as like, this is where I can here's where like my position as a student and the position of my institution, I can make a direct impact on something with global resonance. So that's sort of like by the time I left, what I was thinking about. And then I started working with Tri-Valley Communities Against a Radioactive Environment in Livermore. So, going from Santa Cruz to Livermore, that was like, it was hard as a college student. And I started working there 5 days before September 11th, 2001. So I came into a company town where like the nuclear weapons facility is the major employer, the major political force, and then was a community organizer in that post 9/11 environment, but like as it was happening.
What do you remember exactly where you were when 9/11 happened?
I was in Santa Cruz.
Like doing what?
I mean, I feel like for some reason I remember like walking up a hill, but like how could I have heard, because I didn't even have a cell phone then. So I had to have heard from somebody. And like, I had a friend out on the East Coast who was flying that night. I mean, all the things where you're taking catalog of where everyone is that you love. And then the imagery, right? We just saw that imagery over and over. And then the cry for war. And that's when that's when the Department of Homeland Security was established. That's when ICE became a force, and you had roundups and Guantanamo Bay and like pulling of people in. So like the moment we're in now is connected to that moment politically over time.
Yeah, I remember I was riding my bike to my friend's house, and I didn't have a cell phone, but I had like one of those two-way pagers back that all the kids had. And then I remember getting it would start beeping. Then I look, and it was a plane crashes into a building, and I didn't even think nothing of it. I just like, oh shit, okay, boom, closed the pager and went on with my riding. So yeah. Oh, I will always remember where I was.
Totally. We were both going up hills, apparently. I'm like, but how did I get the notice? I mean, that's the thing, though. Both of us grew up without cell phones.
Yeah. So you say your dad is from India, yes? Have you been to India before?
I did. I went when I was like 5.
5? Okay. So, I mean, do you remember the trip?
Of course. I do.
India is a weird place to me because the gap between, I've never been to India, but what I've seen, right, the gap is so huge between, and there is no middle. It's either you're wealthy or extremely poor, right? Is that how you think of it too?
I mean, it changes. So there is like a growing middle class in some ways. And so it would be interesting to look at like between the U.S. and here, which has more poverty and which has a more robust middle class. I'm not sure. I mean, the current administration has invested more into like nationalist infrastructure, but like that's also their narrative. So how does it really play out? But yeah, it's incredible. Like here it exists, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
There, you're not going to pretend it doesn't exist. It's like every day, like you have that like multi-million-dollar skyrise next to the slums. And the slums go on and on and on. And it's like so much of how it's like very formalized in how you interact, who you see. Like it's just the classism is enforced in a different way. It's enforced here, but it's invisibilized. So it's almost like we culturally gaslight it, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's like such a big population too. So that issue of like rural folks being pushed off their land into the cities, all of that. So there's a lot of a lot of influences. I mean, it's a democracy like here. So much misinformation, so much narrative control by the state, a lot of fundamentalism. So a lot of similarities to here.
What do you think is the worst thing that our country has done?
Well, I mean, there's so many things to choose
just give me one.
I mean, I think the genocide on this land and the invisibility of it in terms of the indigenous population coupled with slavery, like those two things. And then that's like the founding doctrine of the nation. And then you like lay a narrative of freedom and justice for all over those two things. I think that's kind of, pretty horrific.
Do you think the Constitution, right, should be torn up and then rewritten? Because back in the day when it was formed originally, I mean, it wasn't formed when they say all people, we all whatever it says, they weren't talking about like people of color. They didn't have us in mind when it was written. So do you think that should be torn up and then rewritten to where it speaks of modern times?
I think the question of nation states is up for grabs, right? Like we're already moving beyond it into like the next wave of control, but that's going to be more like corporate ownership, right? Like we're already sort of there where like the corporations, like look at like the meetings, like when this administration went to China, it was all the corporate heads go along. So they're controlling. So I think it's less about like rewriting and doctrine and rethinking the structures because they're already moving, but not necessarily in a way that like are going to be good for people on the planet. So what else is possible in terms of governance?
Let's talk about this book that you have, Call of Freedom. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's my debut novel. It took me about 14 years to write.
Damn.
And
14 years.
14 years.
You wrote this all by yourself, or did you have, because you know how some people be like, oh, I wrote a book, but they're just talking to somebody while they write the book.
No, I wrote it, and then I have like the best editor ever, and she pushed it and made it even better. So it's very much inspired by the independence movement in Indian occupied Kashmir. So that is, I went there in 2011 and was just like, and folks were talking about like within this very militarized zone, and they were having like uprisings with 1 million people in the street every day. They were talking about like, what are the forms possible beyond a nation state? Because like a lot of times you win your freedom and then the next government comes in and it's like the oppressed become the oppressor. We see this cycle. And so I was intrigued by that, went there and, you know, really saw that it was an independence movement and saw how controlled the story was by India, having lineage from there. Felt sort of a responsibility and also an access. And so
this is in India?
It's like, so the story takes place in a land that I created called Charagan, but it's very much allegorically related to Kashmir. And
so this is a fiction?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a fiction. And like Kashmir's been carved up between 3 nuclear nations, Pakistan, India, and China, with India controlling the largest portion. And so, but it's like an ethnically secluded region with its own culture, population, food, history, all of that.
So before you went on this trip, did you already have in mind that you wanted to write a book? Or when you got there, you were just so amazed or so motivated that's when you decided to write it?
No, I've always been like, I'm going to write a book.
Okay.
So then it was like, I'm going to do this like Bombay to the Bay based on my family. So I was like using my grandmother who I've never met, like her letters, sort of stitching it together. And then another voice came through. And that voice was in a deeply militarized zone. And I was like, let me explore this. So then like that took me to Kashmir. But then once I got there, it was like they had just verified the mass civilian graves the state had. So I also produced for KPFA radio. So then it was immediately went from like the pen to the microphone, capturing stories, doing investigative journalism, because there was this urgency. So I've been exploring the stories through film, radio, fiction, each in their own way.
Yeah, you have a documentary, right? On YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is that related to the book as well?
Yeah, I mean, that is like, that documentary here still is about state-sponsored torture in Indian-administered Kashmir. And so, talk with torture survivors and folks that have experienced it, and then human rights defenders as well. So they intertwine. But like the nice thing about documentary film is you get to hear about it from people in their own voice, in their own place, but you like create the fishbowl, right? Like as the director and producer, like how are you going to create this story so others can come into it? So I love the documentary film for that.
That was your first film?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was like, I just kind of went in like, these are like really suppressed stories. I'm going for research on the novel. What can I build? And so that's what came out of it.
Are you a emotional woman?
Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Are you an emotional woman?
I mean, I sure hope so. I think emotions are really important. And like when we let like our emotions and cerebral and spiritual part all harmonize, that's like where, like, because when are you going to numb yourself? We kind of talked about that a little bit with the poem, right? Like, how much do you have to numb yourself to survive?
Well, I asked you that. Because when you were doing this documentary, and then when you went on this trip, and you were like talking to all these people, I'm pretty sure they had a horrible story because they were telling you about torture and shit, right?
It was hard.
How did it affect your psyche?
I think there's multiple parts. Like one is like I can. Like, what does it mean not to hear a story that someone else has experienced? That, like, there's one, like, and that they're asking to share with you. I wasn't like, hey, I want to do a documentary film on torture. I was like, I have a camera, I'm a storyteller, what's going to be helpful? And folks were like, these are the stories we want to tell. So I'm like, okay, let me get in there and like, I'll hold these stories. So like when I think that's important, like I didn't come in like I want to do this because that would have been weird. And then people had really heavy stories. So then you take them and you hold them. And then, I mean, I would do like, I transcribed almost everything too, just because it was all heavily accented. So I couldn't, like at that time I couldn't use the service. So I like went through. So I would try to just do that by myself, like 6 hours or something, block a weekend, and you just go into it. And then you give yourself the on-ramp in and the on-ramp off. But it's a lot, and it's like someone's experienced it and lived it. So like we're sharing it so that we're trying to stop that. So you have to look at something in order to shift it. So there is that moment of reflection. I think that's important. And yeah, like the honor, like, yeah, giving myself some space and also just being alone. Like I didn't like it would be like my kids would be gone, people would be gone, and I'd just like have a couple days and then I'd work on it.
Was there anything that you heard that was so bad that you didn't include in the film?
I mean, yeah. But it kind of like some of it would come in different parts. And so a lot of times I think in the film, in the novel, like you take it to a line and then you edit it back. Because it's like, how much can people hold of it? So I think it's like, Yeah. And so sometimes it wouldn't go in one film, but it would go in the next, and then I would break things apart. I mean, one of the most difficult stories was the Indian Army gang raping 2 villages. And so that story is really hard. And then also just like nobody wants to marry women from those villages.
No, because they were gang raped.
Yeah, so like what does it mean to like rape is used as a form of military control all the time in warfare, which is just like one of the most heinous things. And then like the women who go through that, they're supposed to not, then it's like then not only that emotional thing, but the external rejection from within their own culture for having been subjugated. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I just like sat with. I think too, like some of the stories, like the back ends of the stories that you hear, like from the women, like, because Call Her Freedom is about strong women that stand up and like love and hope and survive despite the militarization and occupation. And I mean, the title Call Her Freedom comes from a moment of like that idea of making a legend, but like, what do you have to go through to be made a legend sometimes is so difficult and ugly.
How long did you said the book took 14 years to write. How long did it take for the documentary?
Those were faster. I mean, the first one I think I released in like, I went in 2018, released my first in 2019. The second was done that year, 2020. The third one, I'm just like still in post-production on. You know, so
your third documentary.
yeah, it's a series of 3 of them, and the third one is going so slow. But that one, it's just hit some blocks. It's a beautiful film, though. And to the emotional part, when I watch it, there's like I have to. The editing it is different than watching it, right? Like you open yourself up emotionally and feel it. But like usually when we edit, we can get into that sort of mindset of just like we're making this content versus feeling.
Was there ever a time when you were writing this book where you were like, this is too complicated, I just want to stop?
Of course, because like how many hundreds of hours do you invest into something with no guarantee that it's ever going to hit the light of day? And it's a novel's not small. It's months and months and so much time.
Yeah, I can
and
imagine.
then it's like you just get rejected. And the best part is like the agents reject you and they literally say like, I didn't fall in love. And you're like, okay, now we're talking about chemistry. Not only do I have to be competent and like make a good story and all of this, but some unknown level of chemistry has to entice you for you to sign with me. And then even once you get an agent, it doesn't mean you get an editor. And so I was rejected a lot. It was considered a dead manuscript at one point once like an agent took it and tried to pitch it, and then she left the industry and nobody wanted to touch it.
So I don't know what goes into writing a book, right? So when you write, explain to me like the steps. You write the book, you write it, the story, and then you have to go find someone to print it, or
I mean, there's so many different ways to do it, and that's what's exciting about the market now, and it changes constantly. So you can go and write it, and you can self-finance, and you can get it printed yourself and just like go out there. You can do hybrid where you like invest a certain amount, but you go to somebody who has the editorial experience, the printing experience, the layout. So it looks good, right? They're going to catch your typos. They're going to help you. Some of them are predatory, but like everywhere there's something that's predatory. So like that's a thing with the hybrid market. Some is amazing. And that's cool because you pay up front, which can not be great. But also then if it does well, you make money back on it. Then there's like the small presses where they give you a little bit of an advance. And then like you go out and push the book. And then there's the big houses, which I was lucky enough to get to. And then you kind of have a whole team behind you working on the novel.
So when you say you were looking for an agent, what do you mean?
So an agent, basically to get to the big houses, you need an agent that represents your work. So most of the time you can't get to a Simon & Schuster or a Penguin Random House without an agent. They work between you and the editor and they pitch your stuff. But it's like, also like I won a contest. It's not like, it's not common, but it happened. So I got to a Simon & Schuster and then I had a contract and I had to find an agent. So, you need your agent even then once you get to a big house just to negotiate for you. So you don't get lost. Yeah.
Are you more proud of the book or the documentary?
Both.
Which one better?
They're connected. And I think that what I'm proud of, the book was harder. The book was harder, like a fiction book. So that part. But the documentary I love because it's like, that's such a new skill and you can consume it in 6 minutes. Like if you read my book, you're committing like 12 hours of your life to me, which is amazing.
Yes.
I'm thankful to all the readers out there that do that. If you watch the film, you're committing 6 minutes. So they're different commitment levels, when the first film came out, it went viral. It went with a report on torture in the region. And so there's like narrative shifts you see. So it's different. I love them both.
What are you currently passionate about?
I'm really interested in like creation stories and particularly indigenous ones and learning in that way. I'm also like my dad's Parsi, so our people come from Persia like 1,000 years ago. So that religion is Zoroastrianism, and so there's like I have a lot of interest around that. I haven't fully been raised in that way, but like a lot of like there's some things I do know, and some things I don't. So there's like curiosity there, and then I think just like I love just being out in nature. So like my sunrises and sunsets and hanging with my hummingbird that sings with me. So like the small moments of beauty in a day, that's like what fills me up.
Are you religious?
Spiritual.
Spiritual. What's the difference to you?
I think religion is like it's like a doctrine that you sign up for. It's a school. It's a way of being that's specific and organized, whereas spiritual is like related to a practice. That's maybe between you and God, maybe between you and Creator. But they can overlay. Like you need,
And spirituality, explain that to me.
I think spirituality is like exploring and understanding and deepening your connection with Creator or God. And like seeing the world not just in a material form, but in a spiritual form.
You ever done ayahuasca?
No. Have you?
No. You seem like you would like that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm very particular about how I want to be in certain spaces and who I'm going to explore with. And so I kind of, that feels like a no door to me. But who knows?
You have children?
I do.
How many?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Okay. How was motherhood?
Extraordinary, like that changes you more than anything. And so I think that's been like the thing I'm most proud of, the hardest thing, the most beautiful thing. Like none of the work that I've done would exist without my daughters. And
2 girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What happened with the relationship with you and the fathers?
Each thing has their time that comes to an end. We did a good decade together and some beautiful stuff, I mean, I think he was the person that connected me with radio. We did a lot of activism together. Like there was a lot of spiritual alignment too. Like the first time I ever went out to Alcatraz for a sunrise ceremony was with him. So there are those pieces that were foundational. And like, he had like an old CD of my poetry that I didn't know that he had from when we were younger, and he recorded it and played it for my daughters. And they were like, wow, Mom, you were a good poet. Like, where's your poetry, Mom? So, yeah, there's pieces.
The men that you look to share time with today, how can I say this? Do they have to have the same, do you look for the same type of guy today as you did in the past?
Absolutely
like
not.
college or whatever.
No, I've grown. It's very different. I think and I approach relationships different. And I think, yeah, super different than when I was really different.
What's the difference?
So many differences. I mean, like when I was in my teens, I was super just like I was unstructured about it. I didn't and a lot of the things now that more of the gender I'm more into gender norms now. Whereas I was rebelling against them at that age.
You were a feminist back then.
Well, I wouldn't even describe it as feminist. It's just a certain ideology, right? I wasn't wanting the door to be held open for me or someone to carry heavy things. And now it's oh my God, if somebody doesn't hold the door open for me, I notice. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
It's funny how shit changes.
You age, things change. But I think, yeah, so much has changed for me since then and how I see it. And I try to share with my daughters, what I've learned. Because I do think it's important to find ways to love in healthy and beautiful ways, in all your deep relationships. And that is hard. And I think people struggle with it. But I think it's really important to find that peace inside of yourself and peace with others.
Would you date a man who's not into politics and activism and all that?
Yeah, usually, I usually do, and my friends usually give me a hard time about that. But it's I'm really not looking for myself in that way. But I need, that's that's not what I'm looking for in a relationship. But then there's also certain things what does it mean when you do human rights work? And what does that mean in different environments and climates? Because there's impact. There's impact to the person. There's impact to the family. There's impact to the unit. And so that's not an area where I'm looking for discord, right? So it's just, yeah, that can be really damaging.
If you was in charge of California, since we live in California, what would be the first thing that you would start working on to change?
Well, suppose California was its own nation state. Of course, earlier I was let's dissolve the nation states, or not dissolve, but let's look for models beyond them. But California is big enough to be its own.
Yeah, they make enough money to be its own nation too.
Yeah, and it's a more governable size. So there's some things that work in California. There's other things. I mean, obviously the amount invested in prisons needs to shift. The amount of detention centers, that's got to go. Investing in baseline healthcare, Covered California is good, but it needs to be better. San Francisco just did free childcare, I think it is.
Free diapers.
Free child, I mean, but honestly, free preschools, free childcare, getting that investment in the social sector, amazing. And then why are universities so expensive? When my mom went to UC Berkeley, she paid nothing. But why are we paying so much? So I think tipping some of those things. And then there's bigger questions around contamination, the Central Valley, a lot water systems. It's complex. But I think that, looking at redevelopment in terms of community infrastructure and health instead of what can you extract and how can you get resourcing would be an amazing shift.
So the first thing you'll do is try to branch off make California be its own country?
Well, I just think that's an interesting idea. Like, I'm not trying to lead I'm not like, I'm better in a small situation than as a leader of a state or a nation state. But like, if I were to advise on like what would be interesting, like what could be interesting, that's sort of interesting. That's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't it just like?
I mean, it is because of the population, the amount of money California makes, the fact that all the wine, all the produce usually comes from California.
Exactly.
The almonds.
Walnuts.
So much shit comes directly from California that goes to the other states.
Produce. Exactly.
Yeah.
Strawberries. We're exporting those to Japan. Yeah.
Who you voting for governor? Or do you give a shit about that?
Mid. I'm going mid. Mid white guy.
They're all mid white guys.
I'm going with the Democratic flock on this particular one. And I am just because I have enjoyed having a Democratic governor. And I think I would like to see that continue. And I don't like the idea of two Republicans being at the top of the ticket. That seems a little terrifying. So,
are you into politics like that?
I like local more. Local is a little more interesting. I think like once you get up that big, you're choosing. Like it's so much harm done at that level.
Yeah.
So you can like diversify, you can have multiple parties, you can get more humane, but like it's hard to have humane models at that scale. So I'm not going to be I'm not going to enter that race.
I mean, well, shit doesn't change unless people like you run, right?
I know, but
can't keep leaving it up to the 90-year-old Mitch McConnells of the world.
Mid-white men.
Yeah, who don't know shit about what's going on.
Mid-white men, but every once in a while, you're just like, go ahead, take the hit.
Who do you, in your opinion, who was the greatest? Well, just name a great leader in history to you.
I mean, I think Michelle Obama is amazing.
Out of all people in history?
Not of all people in history. I think like if I thought about people who have really moved me, the Dance sisters, they're out of the Western Shoshone Nation, and they brought, they went to the international courts around their land right as Indigenous people. And it was just really cool, like the amount of progress that those two women made as sisters. Incredibly powerful. So that's a model that I'm like them that I've really looked to. Nawal El-Saadawi. She was an Egyptian writer and also incredible organizer. So I do like sort of that influence, like I like that in between culture, art, and activism, because I do think that moving through the culture changes what becomes possible and also how we do it. Because otherwise, like when you lead a big movement, it's a lot comes with that.
Okay. Do you think we will ever see a woman president
of the United States? It's funny that you even have to ask that question. What year is this? What year is it? What are we in?
I mean,
we're in 2026,
and
we're still asking that question and calling ourselves a democracy. And then it's like, and then we go into other countries and we're like, we're here to liberate the women. So that's like, this is sort of ridiculous. But I don't like that we have to ask the question. It should have already happened. We're just behind the times here.
Yeah. I think Mexico got a woman president.
Pakistan has, India has. Like, who has not had a woman leader?
But has there been great women who tried to be president to you?
I mean, I think that it's important. I mean, that's a big position to hold. And I think there's been good movements made that way. And like, as a person who, like I'm saying, I'm not interested in trying to run a state.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot from you. I think it was the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She stepped down and she was like, she had her baby. Like, it was just like too much. She was just like, I don't want to lead a country through all this chaos and like try to be raising my kids. And I'm not saying like you can't do multiple of those things, but what do you sacrifice to be at that level? Because those quiet moments are beautiful. Like, I want to protect those parts of me.
You want more kids?
No. Absolutely not. Oh my gosh, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have been on this journey. Yeah, but no, I'm not really not one again.
Do you see any progress in what you did a documentary on in that region?
I mean, in Kashmir, the situation has gotten worse on the ground since I was last there. So, like, the land protection has been dissolved. The economy's been opened up to foreign investment. Non-Kashmiris can live there. You have, like, settler colonials coming in. You have the dismantling of the media. So, like, it's gotten worse, but that doesn't mean that then what we have captured in terms of, like, the cultural erasure is really important. It becomes even more relevant in some ways and more necessary. So, like, I don't think we can say, like, we're going to win a battle because we're not really fighting in the fields that way. Like, other people, like, there's those who are in the battlefield, and then there are those who are, like, in the forest and the creating and, like, growing things, you know? Like, and those are two different ways of being in the world. So it doesn't mean that things aren't going to be really hard and that terrible things don't happen every day. But it also means like we are able to create beauty around us in moments and like still exist in human kindness. And like even some of the most beautiful folks that I've known that are human rights defenders are currently incarcerated by the Indian state. Quran Parvez, Irfan Mehraj, they've been incarcerated for 3 and 4 years. Beautiful storytellers, powerful, but like you can incarcerate people, but still like that cry for freedom exists. You can't stop that.
Tell the people where they can find and buy your book and where they can find your documentary. Also, if you want to give out your socials, your Instagram or whatever.
Yeah. So Dorabji.com has kind of everything. And then T, that's for Tara, and Dorabji. So at T Dorabji is my Instagram. That's like the best way to sort of follow me, stay connected. The book?
They don't know how to spell that shit.
I know. Do I really have to spell it? Let's do
Yes.
it. All right. D as in dragon, O-R-A, B as in butterfly, J-I. That's Dorabji. And T for Tara. So T Dorabji. Follow me on Instagram. Find me on YouTube, wherever. And the book, anywhere books are sold, you can find Call Her Freedom. Sometimes it's not in your local bookstore, but they will order it if you ask. And you can order it pretty much anywhere online or find it at the library.
What's the next thing that you are working on that's ahead?
I'm working on the next novel. It's a similar themes of love, intergenerational. It's like, intergenerational love story, humans' relationship with technology, what makes us human, taking place in the Bay, over 100 years.
Okay. You're not in love right now, are you?
You want to wake up with love each day. Right? Fill yourself up.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk off mic about that. All right. Well, Tara, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, talking about your life. Very interesting woman, very beautiful woman. Very, very intelligent too. I like that. Everyone follow her, buy this book. It's a great read. I haven't read it yet, but I just know it's a great read.
You got one. You have your copy.
Yes, I'm going to read it.
Can listen to it too.
Oh, it's audio too?
Yeah, and I got an amazing audio woman did it. So,
is it your voice?
Oh, definitely not. That would be a small torture.
That sucks then.
No, she does even better.
Okay. Any last words?
No, thank you so much for having me. Been really, enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. Just Everyday Celebrity Podcast, and we are out. You?
Celebrity to me, celebrate cause I'm me. You a star, you a star, you a star, believe. Reach like 2, 3.